Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Jarvis Watson, and I am the inaugural Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion here at SVA. My pronouns are he, him, his. Today, we are hosting an hour of reflection on our Day of Healing. I would like to thank our esteemed guest, Dr. Arkander Owens, coming all the way from the beautiful state of Tennessee, all right, for joining us today and leading a discussion on helping us understand the effects of trauma, how it might show up here at SVA, as well as provide some tips for healing individually and as a community. In the past few years, we have witnessed and experienced trauma in its various forms. Not to read off an exhaustive list, but we can recall instances when our daily routines were disrupted and unnerving. As it pertains to historical trauma, we want to acknowledge that we stand on the grounds that have been ceded from indigenous nations, such as the Lenape-Hoking, or Land of the Lenape, nations such as these and Shinnecock and Unkeechuk nations have been subjected to genocide, displacement, and a threat of erasure. We want to acknowledge that these nations are still in existence and are still thriving. In addition to that, today we want to acknowledge how recent incidents and tragedies affiliated with race, ethnicity, class, gender, ability, age, residency, sexual identity, sexual preference, bias legislation, and even natural disasters have impacted us as a community. So we pause today to catch our breath. We pause today to reflect on our current status. And we pause today to discover how we can restore ourselves and help our neighbors to become whole. Before we begin, I would like to thank the leadership and staff of the SVA Theater. Thank you so much for all the help that you've given us to make this happen. I would also like to thank our SVA leadership, President David Rhodes, Executive Vice President Tony Rhodes, and our Provost Christopher Cyphers for their support. I extend our gratitude to the Executive Director of Human Resources, Vanette Jones, and her staff, Jeanette Torres, who is the Benefits Manager, and Colin Cummins, who is the Benefits Coordinator, and Associate Director of Health and Counseling Services, Ariel Kempler, and the counselors, Rebecca Amoba and Nurse Emily Goodman. Thank you for being here today and helping to create this event. And extreme appreciation goes out to our new coordinator in the Office of DEI, Brenda Fortune, who, you can give her a clap, yeah, who made it possible for Dr. Owens to be with us today. I told you I was gonna give you a shout out, so all right, just let you know. Finally, I would like to recognize and thank our guests who have joined us in person. All right, thank you. And for those who are with us virtually, hello out there in virtual land. Some housekeeping rules. For those in person, we asked if you have a question or statement that you wait until the given signal to come up to the mic, which will be on either side, and to ask your questions. And that will be during the Q&A portion that you'll see in a few minutes or so. For those online, please utilize the Q&A option, and someone will get your question to Dr. Owens. Please be considerate of your words and questions. We want to honor your voice in a respectful way. So just please be mindful of the content and be mindful of what you need to say, but we want you to express yourselves in the best way possible. Also, if at any time you feel you need to take a step away, we have the large theater for those who are here that a representative will be here to sit with you from either Student Health and Counseling Services or Human Resources. Oh, okay. And if you are online, we will provide a breakout link for you to go to talk to a Student Health and Counseling Services counselor, as well as someone from HR, if you're a faculty or staff member. So at this time, I would like to introduce Dr. Christopher Cyphers, our provost, to provide opening remarks and context for today's discussion.
You may have picked the wrong person to do this, but no, I'm joking. Good afternoon. Good to see you here in person and those of you joining us virtually for participating in today's discussion, and a special welcome to Dr. Owen. It's great to have everyone here, either in person or online. This is certainly an important and ever timely topic of discussion, and something that Jarvis brings to our attention, if it didn't already occur to us on a regular basis. War, political repression, poverty, every ism and phobia you can imagine, mass shootings, gun violence, natural disasters, pandemics, the persistent and perniciousness of institutionalized racism and implicit bias, police brutality, homelessness, and the list goes on, are certainly traumatic for those for whom these are lived experiences. And of course, there are the personal tragedies we all suffer, and trauma should not be confused with victimhood. For those not confronted with these traumatic experiences on a daily basis, they can seem like abstractions. But whether acknowledged consciously or unconsciously, trauma on the scale we see in a disaster or war zone, at a mass shooting, or the daily injustices and indignities experienced by people because of their race, ethnicity, gender, or sexuality does affect us all. It can at times inure us to these traumas, which is itself a form of trauma. But then there are events that bring things home. You may have read today about a group of young people from rural upstate New York who, in the dark of night, inadvertently drove up the wrong driveway looking for a friend's house. As the group turned their car around, several shots rang out, fatally striking one of the car's occupants, a 20-year-old woman. This is not unlike the 16-year-old boy in Kansas City, Missouri, who rang the wrong doorbell while picking up his siblings when an 85-year-old homeowner shot the boy in the head. Luckily, he survived. These more individualized or personal events are easy, for me at least, to better understand. That could be my niece, it could be a friend's son or daughter. It's something relatable. I've never lived in a war zone. I've never suffered through an earthquake. And I do, by virtue of my race, gender, and background, enjoy a certain privilege that I can only understand a priori for those who experience this on a daily basis. So there's a lot to unpack when we talk about trauma, its direct and indirect effects, and how, if not dealt with, has a deleterious effect on us as individuals and as members of a society. I'm hopeful today's discussion will help us better understand the meaning, consequences, and healthy coping mechanisms for dealing with trauma, whether it's deeply personal or something experienced by an entire society. We are surrounded by trauma. It is an ever-present reality for so many in this world. And whether, again, it's the victims of gun violence, mass shooting, or, as I said earlier, the isms and phobias, fill in the blank, that repress, oppress members of our society, and I would submit collectively make us weaker. But there is an opportunity there for us to become stronger, and this is a good starting point as any, and I'm looking forward to Dr. Owens helping us unpack this idea of trauma and how it affects us and how we can best manage these effects of trauma in a healthy and productive way. You'll have to forgive me. This was a down-to-the-wire preparation. So that being said, it's my pleasure to introduce our Executive Director of Human Resources, Vanette Jones.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're happy to see so many in attendance in person and virtually. Thank you, Dr. Owens. HR has worked closely with DEI from day one, actually, to consider what we need to do for the campus. Part of our initiative is making sure not just from a diversity, equity, inclusion, but wellness and health standpoint. So it's important for all of us to know that we're all have gone through something, maybe not super traumatic, but we're all healing. And we need to consider that when we are working with each other every day. I'm always going to speak from a standpoint of faculty and staff, and my colleagues will talk about students, of course. But you're not forgotten. So your supervisor, we may not say it every day, but we know that we appreciate you. And we know that it has not been easy, especially over these last few years, even up until, as Chris referenced, the recent shooting with the young man, 16-year-old. So you don't have to personally feel the effects, but it's in your face. Social media is there, news is there. And if you have empathy and sympathy for others, you're feeling it. So again, it's not forgotten. But with that said, we take on a lot. Knowingly or unknowingly, you take on a lot. So it's not uncommon for individuals to focus on work and family and forget about themselves. It becomes a machine, right? It's a distraction. So with that, it's important to remember that that approach does not benefit anyone. And the reality is you can't pour from an empty cup. So because you can't do that, what we want to remind you of is the resources that we have available. So whether you are a Cigna member or not, there are resources available. So I wanted to outline those for everyone. So if you're currently on the plan, we do have iPrevail, which is an on-demand coaching and personalized learning platform where they provide tools to boost your mood and improve your mental health. We also have Happify, which is science-based activities and games for stress and worries. So you can use that to hopefully help you overcome some of life's challenges. Additionally, there's other management programs, Global Fit, weight management, things that may, again, be a nice distraction, but help you mentally and distract, for fitness and things of that nature. What we want to make sure is that, again, you have a resource in the Human Resources Department. I know our staff has been through quite a transition, but we are fully staffed at this point, so I do have to acknowledge that. Jeanette Torres, as mentioned, is our benefits manager, and you have Colin Cummings, who is our benefits coordinator. You can reach out to any of them for information on these benefits or just to get some guidance. It's not all about personal, it's work and there's stress, and it's the end of the year, it's close out the semester, so everyone's running probably on fumes. So, again, remember to take those moments. Again, as the semester ends, take a moment to breathe. Take a step back. And remember, the work is going to be there. The students will be there. Your colleagues will be there. But you have to remember, you have to be there with your best self. So that's it for me. What I'd like to do is turn it over to my colleague, Associate Director of Student Health and Counseling, Ariel Kempler.
I'm a little short, so I try to move the. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, staff and faculty and students. Thank you, Jarvis Watson and Brenda Fortune, for putting together this amazing event. And thank you to Dr. Owens for coming to talk to SVA on such an important topic. The last 3 years has been a challenging time filled with uncertainty, violence, threats towards our human rights, and trauma. The trauma from the past 3 years has been affecting all of us. And I wanted to remind you that Student Health and Counseling Services is here for all students at SVA. And you don't have to go through all of this alone. We provide free, confidential, short-term counseling for all students at SVA. We also have a part-time psychiatrist who provides medication management for students. So if you're interested in getting on medication or want to talk to a doctor about it, we do have a part-time psychiatrist. And we also have a nurse who can help do some nursing consultation with you, talk about doctors or other resources that may be helpful for you. We also have year-round programming. So you'll see us on Instagram at Student Health, at SVA Student Health, but you'll also see physical programming around campus as well. We do dog therapy, which is our most popular event, which is really just an hour of just being with dogs and cuddling with them and getting doggy love. We also have yoga events, mindfulness events. We do events where we build Legos and have coffee. We have an event actually tomorrow where we're writing love letters to ourselves and talking and taking care of ourselves in such a stressful time. So these events are open to all students. They are advertised on SVA Today. They are advertised on our Instagram, and we want you to know that we are here for you. For staff and faculty, we also provide resources. We provide trainings such as Helping Students in Distress, which is a training that helps guide you through helping students who are going through something in their lives, something distressing. We also are bringing back mental health first aid, which is a training that we partner with. We partner with the New York City Department of the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, and it's an 8-hour training that helps you really work with anyone, not even students, who are going through any mental health or substance abuse issues as well. So we are here for staff and faculty as well. If you have someone that you are working with, you're feeling overwhelmed, we can support you as well. I just want to, again, recognize that this is a time where we're going through immense trauma. It is a time for us to come together as a community and recognize the trauma we have faced and support one another in a journey of healing. I would like now to introduce my colleague, Brenda Fortin, the coordinator of the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
Hello. I am Brenda Fortune, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Coordinator, so I'll be introducing Dr. Owens. Dr. Arcandria Owens is a trauma-informed licensed psychologist with a passion for the promotion of mental health and wellness for all, but with a particular love for doing this work with underserved populations. She specializes in the treatment of racial trauma, grief and loss, relational concerns, religious and spiritual issues, and family of origin trauma recovery in the counseling that she does within her private practice, the Collective Healing Space. Dr. Owens also works as a racial equity consultant through her consulting business, Owens Psychology, which allows her to provide dynamic and interactive training, needs assessments, and tailored consultation services around issues of race to organizations, churches, and mental health collectives in the communities she serves. Dr. Owens loves spending time with her partner of 17 years, Breon Owens, and her 2 daughters, Olivia, who's 8, and Noelle, who's 5, walking across bridges, dancing and singing, and engaging in discussions addressing where babies come from, figuring out what 1 million zillion means and how long it would take to count to this, and sharing what we are grateful for. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Arcandria Owens.
Well, the much-awaited time has finally come. I'm so glad to be with you all today, and glad to be able to just hear the comments before and to really know that it sounds like some fertile ground is here, ready to talk about trauma and especially how to heal in the midst of traumatic events. And so what I want to do is just issue a few invitations first. Of course, I'm a psychologist, so I'm going to be thinking about your feelings and what's going on, of course. But I want you to be thinking about that too. I want you to be tuning into your body and answering the questions. What do you notice happening for you emotionally? What sensations are you experiencing in your body? And what are the thoughts that are either opening you up to this conversation, or maybe the thoughts that are maybe creating some barriers to being able to engage the discussion? My second invitation is please take care of yourself. Trauma is hard. Our narratives around this are varied based on our experiences and our identities. If at any point your body, your mind, or your spirit presents to you a need, please meet it. Respond to that. There is space for that. And I want us to do that, so if y'all heard that we have a space in the large theater, if you need to walk out, if you need to have space, if you need to just go outside for a little bit, feel free to do that. I will be using words like trauma in this conversation, and sometimes even that word can really activate us. And so just pay attention, deeply breathe in the moment if you need to do that, stretch a little bit. All of these things are really helpful in helping us get some of that trauma out of our bodies. So we're going to get embodied just for a moment, and it's going to be a quick moment. And I say a quick moment, sometimes it's really helpful when talking about trauma to know that there is a beginning and an end, even in this conversation. And so what I'm inviting you all to do is to recall a time in recent years that was stressful or difficult. And my invitation is to utilize a time when it was rated at like a 3 or a 4 versus a 10, as far as the impact. And so what I would invite you all to do is, if you don't mind lowering your eyes, if you don't mind closing your eyes, whatever that needs to look like for you, whatever feels safest, and just recall that time. Recall a little bit about maybe the beginning of that time, or maybe finding out something, or maybe enduring an issue that was coming up. And when you're ready, and this is for the folks in the chat as well as the people in person, I wonder if you could just call out any emotions that you feel as you're experiencing that level 3 or 4 of an experience, any sensations that you experience in your body, or anxiety. And I'm going to repeat them just so that it's accessible to everybody. Anxiety, thank you. Tightness in the chest, yeah. Fear, thank you, yeah. Tired, ooh, that fatigue, that can get you. Frustration. Confusion, yes. Okay. Last thing, if you're willing, if you could just look at the person next to you or right behind you or wherever and just tell them, whether that's in the chat or right next to you in person, how you were able to move through that time in your life. Just a very quick summary. I'll give you just a moment. If it was a coping skill that got you through, it's okay. It doesn't matter what it is. Okay, maybe about 10 more seconds. Conclusion sentence, if you can. The in-person crowd is still going. Okay. All right. I'm going to bring us back in. There were some good smiles in the room here. I'm not sure what happened on the chat, but there's some good smiles. There was a little bit of laughter. There's a little bit of motioning that people were crying, motioning that, there's a lot happening there. So what I'm hopeful for is, one, that gets us into this space, and it helps us recognize that we all have experienced stressful times, difficulties, potentially traumatic events. And it also helps because it humanizes us. We have feelings, we have sensations that happen in our bodies. My gut feels trauma very particular ways. There's someone who pointed to themselves as well. So my gut feels that, my head, sometimes headaches. There's a lot of ways that my body really holds on to stressful events. So, all right. So one part of this is just really trying to help us understand what is trauma. And here are some names that if you do any trauma research, they're probably going to be the folks that you're looking at the most. Peter Levine says trauma happens when the organism is strained beyond its adaptive capacity to regulate states of arousal. It manifests in global fixation and a fundamental loss in the rhythmic capacity to self-regulate arousal, to orient, to be in the present, and to flow in life. There's a disruption to the flow of life. Judith Herman says traumatic events are extraordinary because they overwhelm the ordinary human adaptations to life. They confront human beings with the extremities of helplessness and terror and evoke the responses of catastrophe. A new mentor in my life, Mashid Hager, says any event or series of events that's perceived as too much by your nervous system. Anybody in here ever felt like something was too much? Yeah. Yes, me too. Trauma overwhelms our ability to cope and self-regulate, and it disconnects us from ourselves, from others, and from the here and now. And this is a really important one, I think, the disconnection that can happen when we start to experience traumatic experiences. We disconnect from self, we can disconnect from the relationships that would otherwise ground us and hold us, hopefully compassionately and with love. And also it takes us away from being right here in the moment where we actually have agency and power. Also, Bessel van der Kolk, ever heard of this person? He's, kind of the big name in trauma theory. But he says this, something is traumatic when an event overwhelms one's coping capacities and confronts them with a sense of their own mortality. And I do think if we haven't experienced this in other ways, we have definitely experienced this on the onset of COVID and as it continues to claim lives even to today. That we as a people, and not just in the United States, but globally, we're confronted with our own mortality. The recognition that we could get a disease and potentially not live through that. And so he's not just talking about global things like that, but we also experience that sometimes day to day. So it's important to understand that there's different types of trauma as well. Obviously, these trauma events that we are experiencing, all the ones that were named even today, that those are traumatic events. And sometimes they are one-time issues, sometimes they are chronic issues that come up that can create more of a chronic, insidious kind of experience of trauma. So we have historical trauma, we have the histories of enslavement, we have the histories of relocation, genocide, internment camps, concentration camps, legislation that dehumanized folks. That's all here in the United States, by the way. We have historical trauma, both here and global. We experience developmental traumas, sometimes those experiences of childhood when parents were absent, when food was not consistent, with lodging that was not consistent. Those types of traumas can really impact how we engage later on in life, or even our felt sense of security and stability. We have intergenerational trauma, which is the type of trauma that can be passed just by being born, just by living. It's the type of trauma that can literally change the way that our genes express themselves. The research around this is amazing, but it also, intergenerational trauma, some of this trauma can get transmitted even into like emotions that people make or dreams that people have. There's a lot of just interesting things, if you ever get enough time, that really talks about how we transmit trauma from the womb literally to the tomb. There's also racialized trauma, which is usually the thing that I'm talking about the most, but it's any incidences of it's the physical and psychological impact of any instance of racism, and all of the kind of fallout that comes from that. And I wanted to stay just a moment here because my guess is that we are all experiencing some type of racialized trauma, either in our own lives or vicariously. When we think about Asian folks who are experiencing Asian hate, who are experiencing being parts of hate crimes, when we think about the ongoing lynchings of unarmed Black folks that are now on media and easily to be seen, when we think about just any racial group that moves through the world differently than folks who are part of the dominant group. And I would even include white folks in racialized trauma, because there's now an experience after the lynching of George Floyd, kind of this awakening that is happening and that is being squashed at the same time, but an awakening to something that's not innocent any longer. You know, recognition that whiteness, if lived out in the ways that it has been constructed, can be really wounding to folks of color. So racialized trauma is a big construct, but important to name here. And then types of trauma, collective trauma as well. We see that most simply in COVID, but we also recognize that in 9/11. We recognize that in some of these bigger traumas that we all recognize it's a shared experience, and there's a shared acknowledgement of suffering, which makes it a collective trauma. So very quickly, what makes it a trauma? These are the preconditions for trauma. It's a lack of predictability, it's immobility, any ways that we feel like we cannot move in the ways that we usually do or navigate our world. It's a loss of connection, it's numbing out or spacing out. It's a loss of time and sequence. Anybody felt like a day feels way different now after being a part of COVID pandemic world, or a week? Every month feels like January now. So a loss of safety, a loss of a sense of purpose, the experience of scarcity, the experience of grief and loss of identity, and experiences of the unexpected. So these are all kind of preconditions for when our body actually interprets something as trauma. These are the things that, if they are present, that we will probably struggle very deeply with what's going on. So I'm just gonna let you lay eyes on this. This is not an exhaustive list by any means, but there are several impacts of trauma, and it's really a global experiencing of impact. It impacts all dimensions of life and can be impacted by the context or the type of trauma. When we look at especially traumas like racialized trauma, that has no beginning and it has no end. And so it can be really difficult to accurately place what is the impact of trauma, but also how do we heal from it. But there are all sorts of other traumas as well that really impact just us globally. And I want to just point out the academic one, just because this is an academic place, right? That we can see this in a lack of motivation, incomplete task, a lack of engagement, and maybe even starting to miss classes. And that can be on the student side and also on the faculty side. So how do we heal? And we'll have some space to ask a few deeper questions, I'm hoping, in just a little bit. But really, this is like a broad strokes kind of look at these sorts of things. But how do we heal? I like to talk about this through 3 S's, right? Safety, stability, and softness. Would y'all mind just saying them with me, just to make sure that y'all are still here with me? Safety, stability, and softness. Okay, which one of those words are you most interested in right now? Softness, always. I know, always, yeah. Well, good, we're gonna get there. Don't you worry about that. I'll make sure that happens. Okay, so what's really important is that whenever we look at trauma, we can really, I could come up here and maybe tell you, like, here are some very specific aspects of self-care, of soul care that you can do, and we can talk about that for sure. But this gives us some more global things that we can do to, or subject matters that we can look at so that we can create a unique action plan for ourselves. So safety is the first one. Reestablishing safety challenges the preconditions for trauma that frame the experience. So y'all remember the preconditions that we talked about. So reestablishing safety specifically helps with the loss of safety, the experience of scarcity, and the experience of the unexpected. So how do we do that? Reestablishing safety looks like this. Figure out for yourself what makes you feel safe. How many of you consider this day in and day out? Yeah. Okay. All right. Remember that there is not an exact science to this, and what works for some may not work for you. Listen to your body, listen to your mind, listen to your spirit. They will guide this exploration. And so reestablishing safety can look like this, like having a little bit more vigilance for your surroundings. And as I look at this, as you see yourself in one of these descriptions, go ahead and just, you can just look at me and nod, or I'll be looking at your eyes too. Learning how to defend yourself, or increasing means of defense. I work in a woman-run practice, and there was a shooting in our parking lot there in Memphis. And we talked about how can we promote safety, and suddenly there were purses out. There was all sorts of like mace. There was like some really long thing and she did this motion with it. So anyway, like there was ways that people, they figured out how to defend themselves, what makes them feel more safe. But whatever that needs to look like for you all, I'm thinking about that. Locking your doors more often, communicating with friends about your whereabouts and expectations around returning home. Establishing times of checking in with loved ones and friends throughout the day or throughout the week. And navigating towards groups of people who make you feel safe. So we can also intentionally choose our surroundings, at least some of them, right? So looking for who are the people who make you feel safe, and eliciting their help in feeling safe. And I want to make sure and remind us of this. Safety doesn't just exist without, it exists within. It can be important to also understand what makes you feel safe with yourself. This means that negative or critical self-talk may need to be examined for validity more consistently. And this could also mean that there is intentionality in reducing judgment for yourself and your reactions to all that is happening. And I want to just say that sometimes with trauma, we can really allow other people's voices to story our trauma for us and tell us that we need to just move on, we need to just get over that, you're being too sensitive, these sorts of things. And really what we have to do for ourselves is, what is our script to ourselves? Are we also blaming of ourselves? Are we also judgmental of ourselves? Are there words that we are speaking to ourselves that are causing our wounding and our death rather than being life-giving? So being open, allowing for yourself to talk in a way that makes you feel good and healthy is important. Excuse me. So the second one is stability. Okay, not softness yet. We're getting there. Don't worry. I know y'all are very excited about that one. But stability is important too. So when a crisis occurs, the first thing that generally happens is that we stop doing the things that communicate to our bodies that we are safe and that we are okay. Reestablishing stability helps challenge these preconditions for trauma: the lack of predictability, the numbing out and spacing out, and the loss of time and sequence. So how do we create stability? One thing is to maintain the structures, the anchors, and the routines in your day. And I know there's a lot of writing on these. It's one, to help keep me on track, but also if people want to actually have this information, it's all there if you want to take pictures or whatever. So maintaining structures, anchors, routines. This can be as simple as continuing to eat 3 meals a day, continuing to go to sleep at the same time and rising at the same time, or maintaining connections with people who are with you consistently, if they are safe people. If there are daily or weekly rituals that you have, continue them, even if they need to look different for you. So it could mean that, a meeting that you usually have goes virtual because you want to be at home and you want to have that kind of familiarity around yourself. Or a meal out can be a meal in, trying to figure those adjustments that need to be made. Creating stability is engaging in connections with others that are routinely life-giving, like I said, and take a break from those that tend to drain you. You know those friends, right? I'm sure none of you have friends that drain you. But you know, some people in life do. And so figuring out, like, how do we engage with folks who are life-giving, and are there ways that we can take a break, doesn't have to be an end, to with connections to friends who maybe might not help our healing. Recreating stability also looks like maybe taking breaks, fasting from media, social media. They really enjoy putting out images that are traumatic. And, you know, it makes people watch, but it also can be really harmful to us. So figuring out how do you assess your capacity, and when you do these things, when you consume media and when you don't, can be really helpful to reestablishing and creating that stability. And create consistent messages of love and care for self through self-care, self-love, and soul care activities. How many of you have a good soul care or self-care rhythm that you have in your life? Good. There's several hands. There are also some people who didn't have hands, and that's okay. That's all right. This is a great time, you know, to establish that. Just being in this world and being in our country is pretty traumatic. We are overwhelmed many times. We are activated many times. Just sitting here and thinking about a 3 or a 4, right, kind of experience allowed your body to react in some ways. And so be thinking about that day to day, moment to moment. If you're really tuned in, there might be ways that you can help curb your experience of trauma. And last one, the one that's long awaited for, is softness. Because trauma is hard, it's painful, and full of sharp edges, gifting oneself with softness is incredibly important. Softness counteracts the loss of one's humanity. It reconnects mind, body, and spirit. It puts us back in alignment. Trauma really disrupts, it skews, it hurts, it's painful. And so the more that we can humanize ourselves and recognize that we have experiences that are hard and disconnecting, the more that we can reconnect is, we'll do better with healing our trauma. And so the gift is softness. And this is, again, not an exhaustive list. My guess is that some of you know some soft things to do. So if you don't see what you do here, I feel very open to hearing about it. But it can look like wearing soft, textured or not textured clothing that flows and does not restrict. Sometimes our clothes get so tight, and not because of anything, it's because of the styles of the day, right? But our clothes can get so tight that we can start to respond to that. It can activate our bodies and put us into a space where we might get a little bit dysregulated. And so looking for clothing that flows, it doesn't restrict, utilizing candles and soft lighting where you can. How many of you are soft lighting people? Oh yeah, that's a good. No overhead lighting. You're right. I don't use fluorescents. It's lamplight all the time. Clients do well with that too. It's a thing. Utilizing aromas that are therapeutic and invite calm. Utilizing self-talk that is loving, compassionate, and caring. How many of us here do really well with this? Just talking to ourselves kindly. Okay, there's a lot of faces. I don't know if you can see me. They're like, oh. Like that. Okay, so that makes sense. We are a pull yourself up by the bootstraps kind of place, and sometimes that can be really harsh, and sometimes that can be anything but compassionate and loving. There are times, that I'm learning, and I've never been a really super soft person with myself, but I'm learning, sometimes I'll look in the mirror and I'll be like, hey, sweet girl, and I just smile at myself, and just, sometimes it brings me to tears, because, I'm not often always, like, speaking in that way to myself, and sweet girl, I don't know, there's something about that just makes me feel, youthful and calm and all of those, and beautiful. And so thinking about what are the words that you need to hear. That would be helpful. Communicating with others, setting boundaries around your needs, teaching people how to treat you, that is a way to be soft as well. Putting up barriers is communicating love, giving people choice about how to meet you and how to love you. Engage in gentle stretching or other movements that support your body. Again, softness, being gentle with yourself. Hard workouts are great. Go on and get your HIIT workout on. And, are there ways that you can just be good to your body? Consume foods and drinks, non-alcoholic if you can manage it, that bring comfort. And think about what brings you joy and do it unapologetically. How many people are joy finders, joy pursuers? Yeah, okay, good. I like that. Okay, so a quick note on healing and then we'll finish up. Healing is an intentional act and it takes effort. People don't just heal by time just going or taking its place. That's not how it happens. Healing has to be intentional. There has to be foresight around how can I create safety and stability and softness with myself. And just, for me, I remember this. Don't forget that if you were sitting here today, you made it through something that could have broken you, and in some cases could have killed you. The story of how you made it through is one worth telling. It's a story of liberation, and liberation is the embodiment of healing. And so this is how you can reach me if you ever want to continue the conversation. I love having this conversation. You can reach me via email. You can reach me via that website. I used to write on Instagram. I really want to get back to it, but my Instagram is Healing Black Narratives, and there was just encouragement there, just naming things that happened there a lot. So please feel free to contact me. I would love to hear from anybody here or online, by the way. And I can turn it back to this, but I just also wanted y'all to see this. These are some great resources just about trauma. Some of it's race-based trauma, but then other pieces in here just about the body, how our body literally stores trauma, that those aches and those pains that sometimes we feel are not because we've worked out too hard or anything like that, or we just woke up, if you're anything like me. But it's because our stories live in our bodies. And if we can express them, if we can work through them with friends, in community, with a therapist, it can be really helpful. And so those are some resources. We're going to move into a moderated discussion, but this concludes this piece. Thank y'all so much for listening, being here.
Dr. Owens, for people here, could you give another round of applause just for great? I think I have Southern roots also, and I'd say you were definitely having church today, definitely bringing the word today. And so what we want to do is provide an opportunity for those who are watching, especially for those who are here today, to ask some questions to you that kind of go a little deeper into some of the things you were talking about. I want to ask a little bit more about the softness, but I want to make sure that we have a few questions that were already provided for us. So one of the faculty, I believe, asked a question, how can we help our students within the context of a classroom? And they talk about within the humanities courses, but I'm thinking in general, how can faculty be present for students who are going through traumatic experiences?
I think that's a great question. And one, it kind of starts before the trauma ever happens. Faculty sharing that they're open, that they're there to hear from students, establishing even those three things, the safety, the stability, and the softness in the classroom.
Right.
And so what that looks like is being consistent, that the rules stay the same, the expectations stay the same, as much as possible, or if they do have to change, that there are ways that that is communicated.
Right.
Also, it's really important, the staff member or the faculty member, that whatever they, the conversation can only go as far as the faculty member kind of allows it to go. sometimes there's unresolved and unworked through stuff for the faculty person as well, and sometimes they'll, they will dismiss certain conversations because they're uncomfortable having them, and trauma is included in that. So it can be really helpful for faculty to also be doing their own work to make sure that they are a good holding space for their students. It may mean that if someone comes up to you and says, hey, I'm experiencing a traumatic experience, that the expectations or, that there's a little bit of flexibility with folks who are experiencing trauma.
Right.
It may mean that if there's a virtual option for class, that you might allow them to opt into that. It may mean that that they're not going to have the best work, their grades might not be the best. And how can you work with that student? How can you exercise understanding, but also exercise like the consistency of the expectations as much as possible. So there's both structure and also safety and care. So those are a few things that I'm thinking about. And also offering content warnings always,
Okay.
whenever you're going to talk about issues that could be potentially traumatic, just because you don't know what people have experienced.
Right, if you want to go a little deeper into that, because I know sometimes they're called trigger warnings, sometimes they're called content warnings, but talk about the benefit of that, especially in our days and times when everything is pretty much charged from some perspective, yeah.
Yeah, well, when trauma happens, there's usually there's a sense of helplessness, powerlessness, and a lack of control.
Right.
And so one way that faculty can give that back, that allows students to have power, a sense of agency, a sense of control, is by naming, that what I'm going to share is this. And if anyone finds it, if you have any activation around that or feelings around that, making sure that there's a space for people to go. Outside of the classroom, making sure there's permission to take care of themselves,
Like
that
that,
sort of
yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah, do we, 'cause sometimes, I'm not sure if you hear it, is this like a feedback happening? Am I also, is that better? Okay, all right.
I don't know.
I think this aspect of giving each other permission, even giving ourselves permission to talk positively to ourselves. I don't think I do that enough.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about that too? Just like having that agency over saying, you know what, I can't give myself 5 minutes. I can't give myself an hour to do this type of thing. So.
Yeah, that's really important. Our culture and our communities really thrive on nobody taking a break, nobody taking vacation, nobody kind of taking care of their needs. If you have needs, then you're weak or something. I mean, there's just a lot, I think, that is just inherent in the way that our culture is. It's a culture of hustle. It's a culture of grinding.
Right.
And it's not a culture of softness. It's not a culture of compassion.
Right.
And so so we can't maybe necessarily expect our culture right now, not yet, to hold us in the ways that we need and deserve. And so being able to have that permission to take that space for yourself, to give yourself a few minutes to take mental health days or mental health breaks,
Yes.
to take daily sabbaticals, 10-minute sabbaticals where you go out, you roam around New York as I did today,
Yes.
trying to find my way here.
That was impromptu, yeah.
Yeah, all of those things are really important, and they're countercultural, and so they might feel uncomfortable initially, but that's not because it's wrong.
Right.
And I tell clients that all the time, like, different feels uncomfortable, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong.
Okay. Thank you. Once again, dropping some knowledge and definitely bringing the word. Before I go to the next question, does anybody have any questions from the audience at all? Or do we have anybody online? Okay, Brenda. Oh. Is it on? You need. Try it.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Here we go. Okay, so we have one question specifically saying, what are specific practices of healing for Black males, especially in trauma-filled communities?
Wow.
Ooh, okay.
By Dr. Loins.
Thank you, Dr. Loins, for your question.
Right.
One, I do think that it's important to find community of other Black men, and not to say that every Black man has the same experience, But I do think that there are enough similarities of the black male experience here in the United States that you could find communities and support around that. I do think that softness for black men is really important. Let me say that again. Softness for black men is really important because there are just structures in place in this country that it is, I mean, driving while black, going to the wrong door while black, going to the grocery store while black. I mean, there's just living life while black, and especially for black men, can be really difficult at best. And so I do think finding community, finding ways to be soft. Like I love a black man in a chair getting a pedicure and getting a manicure. I love that. And some black men might get uncomfortable with that. That's okay. But there are other ways to find softness too, right? Like it could be, you know, a favorite show. It could be connecting with a favorite family member. It could be connecting with a bigger community out. You know, it could be church, it could be, you know, other places like that. But black men really need to do their best and have people in their lives that really affirm them and affirm that their lives matter. Absolutely. They should hear that every day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you for saying that. And I think also breaking out of this stereotype and of being hard all the time. I know it's something called John Henryism.
Yes.
For those that are familiar with John Henry, you know, he worked so hard, or he was actually competing against a machine.
Yes.
And his heart exploded. And that the moral of the story was like, this is the narrative of the black male experience in America, you know, and that doesn't have to be our narrative. And for you to say it's all right to be soft, it's all right to get manicures and pedicures, you know, to break out of this box. I know at least for this black male, it's very refreshing to hear that. And I'm pretty sure there's for other identities and marginalized identities, it's going to have to probably be that same type of messaging.
Sure.
Because even for our students who identify as Asian on this campus, there's the model minority.
Yes.
That is a box that we've been talking about recently as well, and how to not live that stereotype out, to understand that the stereotype is placed upon you. And if you don't fit, then that's all right. And if you don't follow through with some of these stereotypes, you can be you. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that. Or.
For sure. I mean, there's a lot of stereotypes that really wound us if we try and fit in the box. And really, again, that's another method of dehumanization. Like, I'm only Asian enough if I'm making a certain type of grade, or if I'm going to a certain type of career field, or if I'm the good daughter, the good son, or the good person, you know. And so there's so much diversity, you know, and being able to live out that diversity, to live out in alignment with who you are and your values and the way that you best move through the world. There's something really good about that. And mind you, I want to go on record saying, you know, I don't know exactly what that experience is like.
Right.
And I've definitely worked with folks who have tried to step in and step out of that box, and it's exhausting. The fatigue that can be experienced there, that's never quite healed by sleep, can be there.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's a lot to that, but hopefully there's some space and some compassion and permission to be. And if that's how, you know, what speaks to them as far as, you know, getting great grades and doing all of these sorts of things and participating in that way, great. If it's not, also recognize that there's wounding that you could be doing to yourself trying to stay in a box that doesn't fit for you.
Right. I want to come back to, I guess, the Black or African American experience after I actually asked another question that came from the audience prior to us meeting here today, and kind of connect those dots a little bit. But one of the questions was, how can Asian students from outside of the U.S. manage experiences affiliated with the recent state of Asian hate violence? I know we had brought that up earlier. in your conversation. So, is there, I guess, any solutions or recommendations that you can provide, and or just an aspect of softness today? Yeah.
Sure. I think, the safety, stability, and softness definitely applies here as far as like the individual experience. I do think, again, finding your people and finding what makes you feel safe, but also finding folks who actually understand, maybe in more visceral and lived and embodied ways, your experience. I do think, I wonder about, and I know there's differing levels of experiences of safety to this, but also advocacy. It could be naming that this is happening and actually asking the administration of a school, like, how are you, what are the moves you are making to protect us?
Right.
What are the moves that you are making to make sure that we can access resources that we need, whether that's mental health resources, whether that's, financial, housing, whatever. I do think that it's really okay to be able to advocate for what you need. And especially when outside on the streets might feel very life or death, it should not feel that way in the school that you were at.
Indeed. And yeah, thank you for once again just speaking to us, but also speaking to our students out there. And I also wanted to kind of, like I said, circle back to maybe, is there another question that we have? Okay. Circle back to what we are experiencing in the aspect of racial trauma right now. And I wanted to, am I going down? Hello? Hello? I was like, oh, okay. My voice got real deep. I was like, oh, wow, that's nice. Okay. With this aspect of rallying around its community, how should institutions rally around employees, faculty, students and staff that feel isolated based off the intersectional marginalized identities that they may have, especially with this heightened aspect of, DEI offices being dismantled, the anti-woke movement is coming about, and if you are like 4% or 5% within the community, and the attacks seem to be toward your marginalized identity, how do you speak to institutions to make sure that students, faculty, and staff know that they have their back?
I feel like that's really, institutional, and so maybe I'll address some of those pieces.
And I guess also from an individual perspective, yeah.
For sure, yeah. I do think that diversity is more than just a statement. It's more than just something on a website. It is an embodiment of diversity, recognizing that every time you're sitting across from someone, it's a cross-cultural experience.
Yes.
And so I do think with diversity initiatives, I do see DEI offices being dismantled, and so it is important that schools and administration rally around these types of offices, that they prove day in and day out, provide evidence of why they are important, and provide evidence for the need for those things. I do think that diversity needs to also be something that is being talked about at every single meeting. It's always a standing agenda item, that we don't leave a room without talking about some issue of diversity, that we recognize, again, that even in that room, we're having a cross-cultural experience, that our students are having cross-cultural experiences as well. And so from the boardroom to staff meetings to faculty meetings to within the classroom, leaving space to talk about diversity issues.
Yes.
And that doesn't need to come from people of color all the time. White voices are very, very important. You have inherent power and privilege, and the way that you use that and wield that power and privilege is really important in talking about diversity too, and providing space for those issues to arise, for those concerns to arise. And when something happens, like having a united experience of responding to that.
Right.
You know, the provost, you know, the DEI person, the president, you know, that everybody is saying the same thing. And hopefully it's, you know, we are here. We want to know. We want to keep you safe. How do we do that? And really talking to the people who are impacted and those who are caring for them as well to find out what are the needs and how do we respond. And respond not, you know, in kind or later, but respond now as best as possible.
So timing is definitely a factor.
Timing is definitely a factor.
Okay. So I guess this could also go to the individual aspect, and I guess we can go a little deeper with the 3 S's. Hold on. I'm going to start with softness. Softness, stability, and safety.
Yeah, you got
okay.
it.
All right. So if you are, like I said, you are in isolation because of maybe where you are working geographically, you're in isolation based off identity, you're in isolation based off of, you know, just, I guess, the content or context of which you work in. How do you use those 3 S's to help with the trauma? I don't know if you just kind of reiterate some of the main points that you had talked about earlier. Yeah.
For sure, yeah. And, as far as, so isolation can definitely make you feel unsafe because you feel like you're the only one. That could feel a whole lot of ways. And so I do think trying to figure out, okay, like how do I feel safe in this space? If you're leaning on other folks, you know, to create that safety for you, it may not happen, or it may not happen in the ways that you need it.
Right.
So it may be about figuring out what do I need, and then who maybe resource-wise can grant that for you as well. As far as stability, are there rhythms? Are there, you know, things that you can create in your day that you know at this time I do this, at this time I do this, and at this time I go home?
Right.
And figuring out like how do I keep to that as much as possible? Because again, trauma really makes us lose a sense of time. It loses a sense of rhythm, and so being able to, you know, have those rhythms associated with your day, even if you're a department of 1 or 2 or anything like that, it can be really helpful.
Right.
And then definitely, you know, that softness, whatever that looks like, it can be in your environment. You know, if you are an office of 1, you're feeling isolated. How do you make the space where you are feel like your own? Some people call it nesting, you know, especially when a mom does that for her newborn child. It is a method of like, how do I make this space safe? And so being able to utilize, you know, the things that you need, the colors you need, the lights that you need, the aromas you need, of course.
Yeah.
But also, like, are there, you know, affirmations you need to have around you? Are there ways that, like, if you are feeling that isolation, if you are feeling that harm or that wounding, what are the words that you need to hear? Can you say them to yourself, or can you have someone else say them for you?
Gotcha.
Or, you know, what are the things you need to have at hand to make you feel good? I have a very soft blanket that I am up under often in my office. I have a beautiful picture of a Black woman with like petals in her hair and things like that, and she makes me feel happy. I'm like, maybe that could be me one day. You know, there's a lot of trees, you know, because I feel rooted whenever I think about trees. I feel the ability to grow and stretch, and so there's ways that I've put into my environment what I need, one, to show myself softness, but also to my environment to show me softness too.
Excellent. So, I see a hand.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. 'Cause you must have felt me like looking this way. Okay, good. Thank you so much.
Test. Hey.
Hey.
Beautiful.
So I feel like there's a very strong connection between softness and safety, and I'm just thinking from the perspective of Black men. How would you coach or help someone who views tapping into that softness as a threat to their safety, where like the performance of masculinity, for example, is what keeps you safe?
Yes. I'm so glad you asked that. And I felt the tension even as I shared earlier, so I'm glad you brought it back to this. So I work with a lot of Black men, actually, in the therapy room, and it's really wonderful, by the way. I love Black men, just in general. And so one thing, that we do talk about as far as safety is like, when can these things happen? Sometimes it just happens for that 50 to 55 minutes in the room with me because it's a safe space in my like pink and mocha space to come in. I know. It's cabbage rose, so just so you know, it's not just like pink. But coming in and allowing like that space to hold like the softer words, the stories that feel hard to talk about, the shame, the vulnerability, those sorts of things. But really we work on like, okay, how do we translate that out of here? Because I do know, especially in a town like Memphis, there's a lot going on there these days. And Black men tell me all the time, like there are certain ways that I have to just posture myself to be able to survive. And so, and I think that that's important. Like I don't ever want to say don't do that or anything like that. It's important to survive, and it's important to live and to thrive and be in abundance too. And so what I try and work with folks on is like, okay, where are the spaces, like who are the people that allow for a little bit of that softness to be there? It may not be like a manicure or pedicure, in certain places. But, if you're with your partner, if you're with like your kids or something like that, can you experience some of that softness like out at the playground or, in different other aspects? It could be like when you're on the phone with someone, not hiding your feelings or, trying to suppress some of the things that are coming up for you. It could be in a journal. It could be, so figuring out like where are those spaces that can hold the softness, because it's important. It's still important, even if, it can't happen everywhere. It's still important that it happens. Because again, trauma is hard. There's like harsh edges to it, and especially for a Black man, one of the most hunted folks in our country. And so we know that hardness is there. We don't have to go looking for it. And so we have to be intentional about where can that softness happen. And my invitation is to try it with someone first, or try something first and just see how it feels for you, and see where does your safety kind of lie. How would you rank it, and then if there's places where both the safety and the stability are there and you can enjoy the softness, do it then. Survive where you need to, but also are there places of abundance where you can demonstrate some of that softness. So it really is like, how do I, where and when. I hope that's helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did something that I should have done a long time to look at the watch. And speaking of hardness, I know we have a hard stop at a certain time. So what we want to do is see if there's any more questions either from the chat or is there any questions from the audience. And I say this with joy and pain that it has been a pleasure to have you here, but we will have to wrap up our session. That's a pain, but we don't want to stop this conversation going. You don't want to stop this relationship that we're developing right now, and I don't think there's any disagreement here that we'd definitely love to have you come back. Probably maybe virtually or in person, but we could definitely would love to have you. And I know you have definitely touched our campus here, virtually and in person, and we just really thank you for everything you have provided for us within this short time that we have today. And wish you nothing but the best and safe travels back to the wonderful state of Tennessee, which I have family there as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, and a round of applause, please, for. And for those that are still here, we wanted to make sure that you left on an additional positive note. So we're going to have Associate Director Ariel Kempler come up and do a grounding exercise to make sure that we are going out on an additional positive note. So. Did you want to stand up or sit down? Sit down.
I want to sit down. I want to encourage you to sit down too.
No,
So.
get out of the way.
Okay, thank you so much.
Can I stay?
Yes, please. I just wanted to sit down because I wanted to remind you all to get comfortable. This is going to be a very quick grounding exercise, but we've talked about a lot that maybe stirred up some emotions. Some parts of us may be feeling, tight or tense. So this is a really good opportunity for us to take time for ourselves to establish all those S's that we talked about. So I invite anyone who would like to join this exercise too. If you do not want to join, you don't have to. This is not required. And what I will ask is if you feel comfortable closing your eyes or at least bringing your focus somewhere other than me, just so you can focus inward, that would be the best. I'm going to close my eyes as well, so I won't even know if you're not closing your eyes. I'm going to sit down. I also encourage you to have both feet on the ground, as we want to feel as centered and as grounded as possible during this exercise. So let me know if you can't hear me. I'm going to try to speak low so that my voice isn't interrupting this as well. So I have to remind myself to take a deep breath because on a mic, I get a little nervous. So let's all take a deep breath from our nose and into our bellies and out through our mouths. Again, I want to invite you to gently close your eyes and put your feet on the ground. And just be with yourself right now in this moment. Breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Noticing any tension that's coming up for you. Maybe you need to readjust, make yourself a little bit more comfortable. Do whatever you need to take care of yourself in this moment. And now I'm going to invite you to bring your attention to your feet, which, again, if they feel comfortable, are placed on the ground beneath you. And as you're bringing your attention to your feet, just imagining the room, the floor that your feet are on, the building of the room that you're in, and imagining that building being deep into the ground, very deep into the ground. Even press your feet on the ground. Feel how stable it feels, that you can put as much weight in and the floor beneath you won't leave. Again, focusing on the floor beneath you, which is attached to the room that you're in the building that you're in, that is buried deep into the ground. Next, I want you to again focus on your breath. Breathing in through your nose, imagining the air flowing into your bellies and being pressed out of your bellies and out of your mouth. In through your nose and out through your mouth. Next, just bringing some attention to your mouth. Notice if it's feeling dry. Maybe it's feeling dry or you need a sip of water. Just imagine bringing some moisture to your mouth, maybe eating your favorite food or sucking on a lemon. Just bringing some moisture in as you're breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Once again, bringing attention to the floor beneath you, your feet on the floor, which is attached to the room that you're in, which is attached to the building that you're in, which is buried deep into the ground. And lastly, I want you to bring up an image of a person or a place or a memory, anything that brings warmth inside you. Maybe it's your favorite person, your favorite food, your favorite place. Just bring about any memory that brings warmth and comfort to you right now. As you bring up that image, feel that warmth and comfort spread through your whole body, spreading out through your arms, the tops of your head, down to your belly and to your lap, down your legs and your feet, which once again is on the floor of the room that you're in, of the building that you're in, which is buried deep into the ground. Take just a moment to savor that warmth and comfort. Know that you were able to bring that warmth and comfort upon you. Stay with that warmth and comfort for as long as you need. Maybe take it with you to the next thing that you do. One more deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And slowly, just maybe wiggling your toes, moving your neck back and forth, bringing yourself back into this room, back to my voice. And when you're ready and you feel comfortable, you can open up your eyes. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Hello? Okay. I know I am relaxed. Thank you so much, Ariel. Give Ariel a round of applause. Once again, thank our esteemed guest, Dr. Arcandria Owens, for blessing us with a lot of knowledge, a lot of solutions, some techniques, some strategies, safety, stability, and softness. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here today, and thank you all for joining us online. And once again, thank everyone just for being present. And this is the first step toward healing. So have a great day, have a great week, and please reach out to the DEI office. You can reach us on www.sva.edu/DEI. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.